Hope everyone is well fed and ready to pay attention because we have a very special guest with us today. My name's Christina. I work for Lens Protocol. We're a decentralized social media protocol focused on allowing creators and users to own their social capital, most importantly being their content and their social graph. So last year, we actually also participated in the first SheFi event, and it was actually smaller than this, so it's amazing to see the growth of the SheFi community as well as a ton of new faces. I mean, that for me gets me super excited and hyped about the space. But I chatted with Maggie and we had a fireside conversation on why decentralized social is important. We figured this year, instead of hearing from us, we wanted to bring someone to talk about their experiences leveraging all of the creative tools in Web3. So without further ado, there's someone I've always looked up to and admired. I'd like to welcome LATASHÁ. She came all the way from Los Angeles, so she made the trip out here, and we're super excited to have her. So, LATASHÁ, you need no introduction, but I'm going to give you a small one anyway. So those who might not be familiar with LATASHÁ, she has been at the forefront of the Web3 music scene, creator tooling, and I always personally look at LATASHÁ and say, what's LATASHÁ doing? Because that's probably something I should be paying attention to. And so today we're going to explore LATASHÁ's journey, as well as the latest tools that she's using, hopefully to give you guys a sense firsthand of where the latest technologies are going as it relates to creatives. So now I'm going to pass it over to you, Tash. For those in the audience that aren't familiar, can you give an overview of your journey into Web3? How you got there, what inspired you to take the leap and start experimenting?
Sure. Hi, everybody. How we feeling today? Good? Yeah, I like the energy in here. I'm really, really grateful to be here. My journey into Web3 was truly a manifestation from up above, to be real with y'all. I've been a music artist for about 9 to 10 years, and a lot of my journey was how do I get away from the music industry and figure out other ways of doing this? As a woman artist in the music industry, there's just so much that we deal with. And you guys have probably heard all the stories about women artists in the music industry and how brutal it is, especially if you're a woman rapper. And I just was tired of so much of it and got into deep depressions often because I was like, I need to figure out something else. I had huge fan bases, but I was just like, I don't want to have to reconcile with giving my soul away. That's what it felt like. And then COVID hit, and I was like, all right, I'm really got to figure some things out. And within COVID, we found Web3. And I became the first woman rapper to bring music NFTs and music visuals to Web3. NFTs are a spicy statement, so I like to say digital assets as well, so I'll interchange between those words. So when I did that, I realized that there was like a transformation happening right here. I was like, wow, I could be immediate to my fans. They could come direct to me to anything they want. And I could really get away from giving all of my data away. And when that happened, I was like, all right, there's a new world here that I really want to live through. And then in the summer, I literally made what I could have made with a record deal all through Web3 without giving away my masters or anything else. And that's when everything changed for me.
That's huge because a lot of artists sign these crazy long-term contracts and don't end up even recouping at the end of it. So the fact that you were able to make that happen by exploring with NFTs and kind of the early emerging Web3 music scene is really cool. Which kind of gets me to my next question, which is there's a ton of excitement around Web3, debatable now in the traditional music industry, which you straddle both, the traditional world and the Web3 world. My question for you is, like, how are you using Web3 tooling as additive to what you're already doing? Because when we chat with a lot of creators, I think, the question is, oh, I don't really want to go and, replace what I'm doing and take a bet on Web3. Like, how do you manage both those worlds that you live in?
Firstly, I think it's crucial for any artist, creative, to utilize all the tools that are in front of them. Use everything you can, especially right now in this day where tools could just disappear out of nowhere. Your data could be stripped out of anywhere. And utilizing blockchain, we know that decentralization and the ability to have our data on chain is really going to be the future of what we all want to see for ourselves. So for me, what was really important was that, one, I didn't want to say Web 2 tools didn't matter anymore, because Spotify and all these tools still have a lot of benefits for music artists, and they have the communities and the worlds out there that I want to connect to. However, what I really figured out within Web 3 was, one, there was a world of consumers that wanted to really get direct to me and wanted to really get to know the nitty-gritty of LATASHÁ, what I'm building, how I'm building. And if you guys know me through my Twitters and stuff, I'm a builder. I'm like, to me, I'm a developer. I'm not like just a creative. I'm developing my career and I'm doing all the things. So shout out to all the builders out there. Woo! So oftentimes what I utilize Web3 and utilize Web3 for is really allowing people to see the processes of everything that I'm working through as a musician, as a self-managed artist, seeing everything that I'm working through, and then giving people the opportunity to want to support and be a part of my community in different ways through buying an NFT or being a part of my fan clubs or being within my Lens worlds, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And I feel what I love about this is that there's like this real deeper connection that I found with my fan bases through Web3. Like I come to events like this and people are like, oh my God, you're LATASHÁ. And they feel like they have a story with me and have watched my journey and really been a part of that. And that is what's really special to me.
That's awesome. We say the same thing, like creators are also builders, because at the end of the day, you have all of these different tools at your disposal to be able to get creative. And I think we're going to see a lot more, no code, frictionless tools for creators in Web3, the same way that we have in Web 2. So moving the conversation now to social media. So to set the stage on, Web3 social, I do want to chat a little bit about musicians today and creators and your dependencies on social. And like, obviously we've seen, the rise of social media. We're stuck to our phones for the dopamine hit, but also from your side, you're building your career on these platforms. So can you talk a little bit more about the importance of social as you brand build and build your fan base?
I believe that artists are the new internet. Like, we are creating the new internet. And every day that you post a piece of art or music or whatever you're doing on the internet, you're literally building up the internet and what it should be. And so with that being said, I believe that artists should get paid for building the internet and being a part of that system, right? And, I utilize Instagram, I utilize Twitter, but I'm giving my information away to these companies, and then they get to profit off of my information every time I'm utilizing it. Every time a fan is connected to LATASHÁ, Instagram is making some money. And I was like, it would be really interesting to find socials that allow artists to actually make money off of their communication through the internet. And that's why I really loved Lens, because now we have the tipping situation with Lens, which is incredible. So anytime I'm tweeting an affirmation, I could get a tip off of it. You know what I mean? And that's fire, because I feel like my affirmations be hitting and really be changing people's lives. You know what I mean? And I'm sure many of you, thank you. And I'm sure many of you guys are like that, where you're like, yo, this tweet went viral and I made no bank off of this viral tweet. Now, what if you could utilize Lens and say that viral tweet in Lens, and then you get, I don't know, crazy amounts of bonsai off of that? That's hit. That's where it's at. And so I really am appreciative of that, because I think there's so much value in what creatives say and so much value in seeing art online. And I mean, to get deep, I believe that art is really the revolution of life and everything else. But like, what we're really witnessing now is this opportunity to exchange and give back and heal money wounds that artists have been having for centuries.
And at the end of the day, right, people follow artists. And so if we're looking to onboard more people into the space, a big part of that is providing these tools for creators, given there are systemic problems out there. And I mean, we were even chatting today at breakfast about LATASHÁ's TikTok strategy. And, the biggest issue is she has all her followers on Twitter and Spotify, but when you go on TikTok, you have to start again from scratch. That's expensive in terms of time. That's expensive in terms of, even investing if you want to put some paid marketing to try and grow your base. And so, Web3 social is hopefully going to solve a lot of those problems. I think we're a little bit early in terms of the infrastructure, but a lot of interesting tooling has been built over the last 12 months. And
yeah, I just also wanted to add that I feel like what's really beautiful about like the Web3 socials that I've utilized, especially Lens, is like our mindsets are all in similar places. So I don't really get a lot of like haters or, people that are mad at what I'm doing on Lens. Like, everybody just seems really excited for each other. And when you're living on Twitter, like I have, you get a lot of hate. You get a lot of pressure, especially if you in Web3. Oh my God, don't get me started on the haters in Web3, right? And so it's really nice to just have a new world where I feel like I have new soil and this new opportunity to garden the way I want to garden and create the world I want to create and not have an algorithm tell me what the hell I'm supposed to be looking at. That's what I'm really impressed by Lens, just the community feature of it all.
Or even taking your fan base away.
Exactly.
And, shadow, you might be tweeting into the void for all you know on some of these platforms because you've been deprioritized. I think the hardest thing for creators is you're obviously very open-minded and experimental. And a lot of them are intimidated by Web3 and the technical challenges. How have you kind of avoided that, getting overly bombarded and not being able to balance your creativity when using Web3?
I like to say that, honestly, that comes from years of experimentation. And also my dad was a hustler and my mom was a hustler, and I watched them experiment all of my life. And so I guess I got a little bit of wins out of that. But I believe when you're an artist, you're a risk taker, no matter what. And so I'm just willing to take the risk. And sometimes it hurts, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I get hit hard off of a risk, but every time I have tried to do something scared is when I see a win happen. So always do that thing when you're scared. Always experiment. Always try new things for your career because you never know what might pop off out of it. I mean, I was able to take care of a lot of situations because of Web3 and beyond. And so, yeah, just go for it.
So you've spoken a lot about the community on Lens Protocol being very open to your experimentation, just being able to be yourself there in terms of trying new things. How have you noticed your content strategy differing from Web 2 and Web 3? Are you posting the same thing? Do you have different strategies for the different audiences? How do you think through that?
I post pretty much similar things on all platforms to experiment and see what hits. But I realize when I'm posting on Lens, I'm a lot more optimistic and cheery than I am on any other platform. And I guess because on Twitter, you kind of have to play a brand and you have to kind of be I'm so cool on Twitter, I guess. And on Lens, I just be myself, and I just be saying anything that I've been feeling for the day. I honestly use my Lens as a diary of my day and hope people are feeling what I feel, and oftentimes they are. So, yeah.
I feel you on that. I'm extra spicy.
You are extra spicy
very
on Lens.
Unfiltered, so you can really get to know my personality there. All right, so what I want to do now is, obviously there's some people here in the audience that are fans of LATASHÁ, and so I want to make sure that I set time for Q&A if anyone has any questions.
Oh. Oh, they got it. Oh, we got it.
What advice would you give to an upcoming artist? They already have a fan base, but in the Web2 world, how can they enter the Web3 and, take advantage of it?
Love that question. I think one, sign up for Lens so that you could start that profile up and really start to engage with the communities there because they're super open to creatives already and they want to know who's out there. Two, I really, really suggest learn about the space as much as you can, meet the communities that you can, diversify your communities. Because sometimes when you're witnessing this crypto space, you're often gonna just see crypto bros. So make sure you're everywhere, and seeing everybody. And then start little by little. Mint something on Lens, mint something on Zora, try different platforms that are out there. And don't be discouraged if you're not witnessing moves happen immediately. It's all about consistency, very similar to every space that you utilize. And don't be afraid to connect with people. I think a lot of times the issue that people have is that they're afraid to communicate and say how they're feeling with other, tools, et cetera, and just connect. I think that's the real purpose of this space in the first place.
I think the beauty of Web3 as well is that we're very much a global audience, right? And that's really important, not to silo ourselves into different niches. And we were laughing today as well. I was saying, LATASHÁ, you're here to grow a European fan base.
I'm so hype about it.
But the beauty of it is it's truly a global platform. And so you'll be chatting for someone from Argentina. And I know there's a lot of Argentinians here, some people in Europe to the US. So it truly is global, which is cool.
And also self-care, please. Artists, self-care, because the space moves fast. You'll get burned out very quickly. Yeah. It's like what Simone was saying about therapy. Take that therapy, honey. Please, please. What I'm manifesting is that labels get off artists' back and allow them to utilize Web3 tools because honestly, it's going to be the future. And if they just continue to lock up artists' music and not allow them to utilize what is here, we're going to just witness a downfall on the music industry, period. So that's my hope and vision. And I also hope and vision for more people to be optimistic about Web3 and, see the light in it because there's just so much beauty. Look at SheFi in itself, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I think I've worked in music previously before Web3 and, these music labels are going to continue to unfortunately fight the inevitable, but it also does bring a new opportunity for independent artists because if you own all your rights, you can actually experiment in ways that other artists are handicapped by. So you think of even the early days of TikTok, it was really those people that were experimenting early that benefited. And we will see the same in Web3, especially for musicians that have much more flexibility in what they can do. And ultimately, I think the future is really hard to predict. Social's weird. Like you can never predict the next social app, but I do think finding ways where creators are able to earn money sustainably and we open up more of a middle class and kind of reduce the long tail issue is something that I'm excited by.
Agreed.
I don't know.
Thank you so much, LATASHÁ. So you were very vocal about Lens, a great community there. I would love for you to, though, walk us back to, you said earlier that you wanted artists to use all the tools available. So how did you actually experiment and explore and test? It's very time consuming. It's still a new space. And actually Web 2 platforms are catching up. There's Patreon has been around a while, Substack and tipping on other platforms. Just walk us through, I would be really curious on how you actually experimented, what you were looking for, because the space is going to continue to change, and so I would love to learn from that. Thanks.
Of course. Well, when I started very early, and I also started during COVID, so nobody was outside. So I was in the house just experimenting with any tool that I found first. The first tool I found was Zora, when Zora was in the auction phase. So I utilized Zora a lot, and what I did was I minted everything I had. I mean, I minted performances of myself, music videos, lyrics, little doodles I would do at night, like anything that was LATASHÁ, I minted because I wanted people to see that I was a dimensional artist and creative. And I think that's the future of artists in general. I think everybody's gonna be multidimensional. And so I did that, and then I watched what hit. So I was like, okay, people are really liking music videos. Let me continue to mint these music videos and see what happens. I also did MP3s on other platforms like Catalog and SoundXYZ, and those ended up hitting as well. And I just kind of followed what excited me. And that's like my motto for life. Whatever excites me, I'm gonna go for, you know? And so I just kept going with those things. And before I knew it, things were just transforming. And then I ended up working at Zora at some point and built a really dope community called Topia, where we also educated like BIPOC creatives, et cetera, et cetera. And then through amazing parties too. And that's when I got to really engage with the community. And I think that factor is dying right now, sadly. Like the community conversation is something that people are really like shaky about because Web3 is in a shaky place right now for some people. But I think when I come to events like this and I get to meet you guys and connect and really get to know what we're about is when I'm like back in the heart of this thing, you know? So I'd say if you see a tool, ask questions about the tool to your community. And then 2, get out there and connect with people as much as you can so you can know what's a viable tool to use.
I think we're at time, unfortunately, but LATASHÁ will be DJing tomorrow at our AFK event, so I hope to see you guys all there, and thank you for joining us.
And I'll be around if you have any more questions, guys.